Welcome back to the Wellness Table. I'm your host, Dr. Cheryl Bothwell, and today we're tackling a hot topic that's buzzing from social media to medical journals. It's Ozempic, the weight loss craze. You've probably heard about it on TikTok. Maybe you've seen Elon Musk tweet about it. Maybe you've read about it in the New York Times. Maybe you've even heard Oprah Winfrey talk about it with her Weight Watcher program. So it's time at the Wellness Table that we uncover the facts and let's discuss the real impacts of Ozempic on the body and on weight loss and how it affects type 2 diabetes. So, Ozempic, for those that may not know, is a medication originally FDA approved to be used for patients with type 2 diabetes to help with blood sugar control and decrease risk of major cardiovascular events that people with type 2 diabetes have a higher risk of. And the side effect has been weight loss. And again, the promise of a likelihood of decreased cardiovascular events that typically improve with weight loss. What this has done has led to its off-label use purely for weight loss, which has sparked a wildfire of interest and unfortunately, a lot of misinformation. So we hope to get the record straight today on our podcast here. The pharmaceutical companies now decided to take this generic medication found within Ozempic and take its active ingredient, semaglutide, increase its dose, repackage it as Wegovy for weight loss, and seek FDA approval as a weight loss medication to be used in conjunction with lifestyle change for individuals who are either obese, which is a BMI of 30 or above, or overweight, which is a BMI of 27, and have another at least one weight-related diagnosis, like hypertension or high cholesterol. After so many people started taking Ozempic and being prescribed for this off-label use for weight loss, it's exploded in popularity. We're seeing it on television, TikTok. People are claiming that they have lost huge amounts of weight, and the success stories are everywhere. And as I've looked to prepare for the podcast, I see the comments and loads of people that are very excited about the weight loss success from having had decades and years of difficulty in losing weight. Craze has outpaced the caution, and it's leading to some misuse potentially and a cascade of unintended consequences. And as a result of all of this publicity, there's literally a run to doctors to prescribe this medication for them off label in order for them to lose weight, which unfortunately ended up creating a shortage. And it put people at risk who desperately need the medication because they have a true diagnosis of diabetes and are not using it for off-label use. So Ozempic and Wegovy are helping many people lose considerable weight, like 12%. Many of the studies I saw was up to 20% of body weight loss on average, and it can dramatically improve people's health outcomes. For decades, leading medical experts have blamed people who are overweight or obese for the extra pounds that they carry without giving them much help or considering the physiological causes for weight loss. So some have blamed obesity on the simple math. Overweight people simply needed to eat less and move more. And we've seen this so much. We're seeing Oprah make the apology that it's not your fault. We're hearing more of the discussion that obesity is a disease. And as we look at this and we see how people that have actually struggled with these things, we have been seeking medications to support diet and lifestyle habits for people that need more, say a kickstart or maybe lifetime support. But also as we look at sedentary lifestyle, consumption of high calorie processed foods, most certainly these lead to the boosted obesity rate in the United States and around the world. And experts have learned much more in the recent years about the genetic causes for weight gain. Some people's bodies may, in fact, want them to pack more fat. So drugs that dramatically reduce appetite help people lose significant pounds. They could be a game changer. So under the FDA authorization, Wegovy is supposed to be used for people who are overweight or obese, who have a body mass index, like we said, of 30 or greater. They're eligible to use this medication, along with people with a body mass index of 27 or greater that also have a health problem. Again, like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, that weight loss is an important part of their treatment. So in reality, some people do not have obesity or weight-related health conditions, and they've been saying that they're using Wegovy or Ozempic to say drop 10 pounds to get skinny. And that's created some of the misinformation and some of the confusion and some of the hype. The FDA has approved Wegovy now for some children and teens ages 12 and older who are dealing with obesity. So this has been a big move to see a medication like Wegovy approved for children and teens. The FDA has approved Ozempic still for people with type 2 diabetes. So both Wegovy and Ozempic mimic a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, which targets areas of the brain that regulate appetite according to the FDA authorization. What's the problem? Why are we as obese as we are? In the United States, 70% of adults are obese or overweight, and many have serious health problems that put them at a greater risk for heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and some types of cancer. So when people lose 5 to 10% of their body weight through diet and exercise, it has been associated with reduced risk of cardiovascular disease in adults. And it doesn't matter how they lose it. It doesn't matter the diet. It's just losing weight independently has these benefits. So as we look at these medications, if we're getting these 5%, 10%, and as the dose goes up with Ozempic, we see more weight loss of up to 20% of weight loss, we are going to see these cardiovascular risk factors, these biomarkers begin to improve. So let's unpack the misuse of Ozempic. This medication actually works as an appetite suppressant. It slows and delays gastric emptying. So therefore you feel full and you have less of an appetite. So it's more of an appetite modulator, leading you to consume less calories and therefore losing weight. So it's not like, oh, I can eat 10 pizzas and this medication will stop me from absorbing the calories. And I think that's a key point here that can be very misleading. So remember that with the research on Ozempic, Wegovy, these GLP medications, the whole goal here is to reduce and suppress appetite so that we eat less. And it's designed to be combined with a nutrition and lifestyle modification, with exercise, changing how we eat, restricting our calories. So I think it's very important here that the problem is if you eat a lot of food and you take the medicine that slows your gastric emptying, this is going to result in you feeling really bad and having a lot more side effects. Nausea, vomiting, potential diarrhea, constipation. We're seeing people actually have severe problems with nausea and vomiting. And many people are saying this is because many people think that these medications are going to stop them from actually absorbing the calories. Versus if you eat the same amount of food that you ate before and you don't make any changes, you're going to have even more of these kind of miserable side effects. Because the whole idea here is that your stomach, everything has slowed down. It's all designed for less calories. And if you continue to eat the large amounts or the same amounts that you were eating before, you will be more likely to have the side effects that so many people saw. Some of the studies that I saw, only 35% of the people were continuing on the medication after 6 to 12 months in real life scenario because of these side effects. So this is telling us that if we don't change how we eat and reduce our calories and reduce our total intake at our mealtime, the side effects will prompt us, and maybe this is protective, to just stop taking the medication. People don't like to take medication for a lifetime for anything anyway. So as we're looking at Ozempic and Wegovy and some of these other GLP-1 medications, unless people see some results, if there's more side effects, they will tend to stop using them. So people are actually starting to talk more about these side effects. And when they're eating their normal portions, like we talked about, and if they don't reduce their portion, they're going to have more side effects. So imagine if you were to overeat, thinking you can while you take this medication, that's a cause for concern. So some of this is the warning that we want to give people about Ozempic. The narrative that you can eat excessively without restraint and still lose weight when on Ozempic is misleading and dangerous. So this medication works by modulating appetite, by blocking calorie absorption. It's an appetite suppressant. It slows gastric emptying and it makes you feel full longer. So ultimately, this should reduce our calorie intake. But if you misuse it, the expected side effects are nausea, vomiting, and gastric distress, nutritional deficiencies, emphasizing the need for, again, responsible use. So when patients are using Ozempic, they've reported losing not just fat, but also losing a lot of muscle mass. It's essential for us to understand, we talked about in last week's podcast about muscle mass. It's really important when we go on a restrictive diet that weight loss, it's not just about the scale, but it's about improving our overall health. not the scale, not just dropping pounds, but losing body fat, keeping our glycogen storage so that we can still have energy. We don't want to lose water. We want to keep our muscle mass. So remember, any restrictive calorie diet and this yo-yo dieting pattern that we see, this would include Ozempic or any of these obesity related medications, and then we go off of it, it's going to result while we're on this medicine of initially in the first 3 months, especially, we're going to lose water. We're going to lose water that's stored in our body for hydrating cells, glycogen storage. This is the fuel for our muscles. This is the fuel for our body. That glycogen storage will reduce and muscle mass, and we'll lose muscle mass and some body fat. It takes a lot longer on a weight loss diet to begin to see body fat. It's more resistant. So we can see this, that it takes even 6 months in some of these studies with Ozempic to start to see the fat loss. But from these rapid changes, people are starting to talk about, you may have heard it, the Ozempic face. And this is from too much rapid weight loss, fluids, glycogen, muscle mass, body fat, it's all dropping too quickly. And when we decrease and we've been overweight and we drop this high amount of weight, we can see drooping in the face. And I think we can see it with any type of rapid weight loss. But interesting how Ozempic has gotten a name for this Ozempic face. I think it's important also that we look at, we can use bioimpedance measures to look at body composition. We can use a DEXA scan to look at it overall. But ultimately, it's so important for us to, as we talked about last week, building muscle and maintaining it throughout the life cycle. So some of my concerns in the real world with any type of restricted, like taking Ozempic, it can be powerful for losing weight. And that might be great for someone that has a lot of weight to lose, and this is their last stop. That's awesome. We look at bariatric surgery. So we've been looking for a medication that could replace or be another step before bariatric surgery. But even with bariatric surgery, we're seeing that people will regain their body weight if they don't change how they eat. So really what I see with these medications is that it's a comprehensive plan. They work and they can be a support to sort of kickstart you and give you that motivation. And if they start making behavioral change, including diet, lifestyle, maybe they exercising more, maybe some psychological support, it can become sustainable and they can wean off of these medications. But most of the time, we're recommending Ozempic as a lifetime medication because when they go off of it, they just regain the weight. Just like we see anytime we go back to eating what we were eating and the same original lifestyle, we will have the same results. So Ozempic, again, is designed to be paired hand in hand with diet and exercise, psychological support, having the support that you get from health professionals. So it's really important that we're talking and getting Ozempic, we're getting these medications from a healthcare provider, a physician, nurse practitioner that's actually also providing these other resources. And that's going to be some of the things we'll talk about today in the podcast because, as we talk about who's going to pay for that, nutrition and lifestyle medicine is not covered very much in medical in our health plan in the United States. So we've seen a lot of reports of people losing body fat, but more likely a lot of muscle mass. And that's the concerning part because muscle is crucial. It's healthy metabolism. It gives us vitality. So remember, losing muscle isn't just about, or losing weight, I should say, isn't just about shedding pounds. It's not just about the scale, but this is about body composition where we want to build muscle, lose body fat, stay hydrated, and have really good glycogen storage so that we can exercise. Because without that, we hit the wall and we can't exercise. So we can't be more active. It's going to be very difficult when our glycogen storage is down and our body is not hydrated. So I think it's really important that as we look at any type of restrictive calories in our diet, that we consider this whole package. So if we talk about the ideal use of Ozempic, it should be paired with a nutrition plan, physical activity, especially resistance training so that we can preserve muscle mass. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening. Many people are not getting this balanced approach as they're using this treatment, but it is not what it was intended for. So anytime, remember that you're going to consume less calories, you can lose muscle mass first. And you're going to lose the water, you're going to lose the glycogen storage, muscle mass drops, and some fat loss. But over time, we'll see some body fat loss. But ultimately, like we talked about again, it's so important for us to build muscle so that we have optimal energy and that we can even have the energy to move more and to live our most vital life. So, this is one of the challenges that I would say as we're looking at this medication. It's so important that we do it right and that we're going to a good provider that's not just prescribing this medication and forgetting about the patient. First of all, you're supposed to be getting the medication and having the doses slowly increased based on side effects that are all being monitored. You also should be recommended with your prescription for this medication a nutrition plan. You should be referred to a nutritionist, a dietitian. My doctorate in clinical nutrition, this is what Dr. Cheryl Wellness is all about. And this is what my membership's all about to support something like this. If you choose to use Ozempic, if you choose to lose weight in any other fashion, that's what we're here for. We can help guide you how much protein you need and make sure that you're getting a healthy diet as you're consuming less calories. That's really important. And you need an exercise plan that includes resistance training and weight training to keep an eye that we are still building muscle mass as we're losing weight. Then you'll see the benefits of a win-win with a medication like this. So many people look at this and say, we don't need to take the medication. They might judge someone that says, you took the medication, you don't need to take the medication. I did it without, I feel like it's like a natural childbirth. I went natural and you didn't. This really isn't about that. I think this is really about individual decisions. If you know you've tried everything, if you know where you're coming from and you feel like, I want to try Ozempic, I'm not opposed to it. I see the success of so many people. We've been looking for medications like this. Ozempic's not a new medication. I mean, we've been looking at metformin. We've been using medications like this for decades. They're just starting to get approval. They're starting to be seen. You're starting to see that FDA is approving them for weight loss in addition to type 2 diabetes. It's actually very exciting if they're used properly. The message I don't want to get out there, that it would be my concern, is that you can't lose weight without them. And also that they are a one-stop shop, that you can take the medication and the calories don't absorb and you don't have to make lifestyle changes. So those are the concerns that I would say that I want to make sure in the podcast that we really highlight, that what's the common theme here is that how do we change what we're eating, less processed foods, more of the healthy foods. And we're going to talk about that in the last part of this podcast, is what we can do, the natural Ozempic. What are the natural ways we feel full, eat less? But either way we go, whether we want that jumpstart of Ozempic, whether we want to take it for a lifetime because we've had chronic issues, we're over 100 pounds overweight, we need that support. It's this or bariatric surgery. It's something to try, but very monitored. Titrate the dose as it goes. Make sure that you're seeing a trained nutritionist, somebody that really understands it. And again, no, I'm here at Dr. Cheryl Wellness to do that for you. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well as we go. But I think it's really important that when we're looking at TikTok and we hear someone say, oh my goodness, I lost 10 pounds and look how great I look and I'm ready for this wedding. That wasn't the intention of the medicine. In fact, people who are already at a healthy weight that just want to get skinnier, they're not the ones that were even studied for the safety and the effectiveness of this medication in any of the research. So maybe taking it while you're at a healthy weight can even lead to worse side effects. So remember, once you stop taking it, the weight will come right back. And remember, when we start taking a medication, we want the benefits to outweigh the side effects. Those would be the concern if somebody is already at a healthy body weight and they just want to lose 10 or 20 pounds. This really is designed for someone with a BMI of 27 or above, somebody that may have 50 pounds, 100 pounds. They've tried many things. And this is something to recognize that, again, if you stop taking it, the weight will come back. So this is really going hand in hand with a combination of a nutrition and lifestyle intervention change. And again, if we have yo-yo dieting, it's associated with numerous health risks. So this would include trying this medication. We do it for 6 months. We lose a bunch of weight. We go off of it. The weight comes back. Remember that we typically lose muscle, and when we gain back the weight from yo-yo dieting, we will regain fat. And this cycle over a lifetime, again, our health status, we see this over and over, is better had we never even lost the weight on our health. But the stigma of being overweight, I know, is a killer. And so that part is real. And I want to say, I hear you with that, because we're not even thinking sometimes about the health response or the health benefits, or I want to feel good, or I want to get my blood sugar down, or I want to drop my cholesterol. We don't even feel that. But what we do feel is the stigma of being overweight and how that affects our social life and how we feel about our body image. So weight loss, body image is very personal, and it's something that each person needs to make this decision on their own. But I just want you to make it informed. And I want you to see these medications as it may be the perfect kickstart for you to get on track. It might take you a month or two of a slowly titrated low dose of Ozempic or some of these like Wegovy, just to get you going in the right direction. Maybe a small dose for all of your life combined with a lifestyle and nutrition intervention. I'm all about supporting that. I just think it's really important that we don't overuse it. Think of it as it's going to absorb all the calories. We can eat whatever we wanted to. And I want us to know that, remember, there are side effects anytime we take a medication. I have to highlight that in Australia, we see there's 2 deaths that are reported. There's going to be lawsuits about this. People get pancreatitis, severe thyroid cancer. There are side effects that come along anytime we take a medication. And again, our bodies all respond differently to things. So it's super important for us to make sure that we've tried all of the other things. And this is the next stop. It's something to think about if you're just really, really frustrated and you really want to do it right. Then I would be about supporting that. So anytime you do rapid type weight loss, this subcutaneous fat that causes this hollowing in the face, this Ozempic face, can happen. And I think it's really important, especially if you're in your 30s and 40s and you have the youngest looking face. You can lose that with Ozempic. So I think it's important to think about the Ozempic face, and let's think about the Ozempic muscle loss as well as any other rapid weight loss program. So I think if we're slowly titrating Ozempic and you want to try it and you feel like it's that kickstart that you need, having a responsible provider that knows how to titrate these, they know how to increase the dose slowly, they're watching your side effects, and they're monitoring how much weight you're losing. So you're still losing in the same recommendations of not more than 2 pounds a week. So when we see these people that are losing, I lost 40 pounds in 3 months, in 2 months, those are my concerns. No matter if you're using Ozempic or whatever you're doing, I would say then eat more calories, because we don't want you to lose more than that amount. We don't want you to lose water weight. We don't want you to lose glycogen storage, the fuel for your muscles. So now you're going to move even less. So I think it's really important that you're looking for a continued 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week max. That's the goal, and titrate your loss right into that goal. Whether you're doing just straight, I want to lose weight, let's do it slow and steady. And nobody really likes that, but I think it's really important to do that. So again, remember, this depends on your individual situation. But if you only have 10 or 15 pounds to lose, and these people that are claiming how much they have lost, I don't recommend it for small amounts of weight loss at all. I don't think that GLP-1 medications like Ozempic should be used as a first-line treatment for those that need to lose weight. So again, remember, anytime you're prescribed a medication, there needs to be a risk-benefit ratio done for the individual that's sitting in front of you, and ultimately these individuals need to decide if the medication is right for them. And then they need to be monitored responsibly. So these medications have shown promise for individuals to lose 10, 20% of their weight if they're overweight or obese, but it's still important to factor in that there are legitimate risks. And again, let's highlight these side effects: GI issues, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, pancreatitis, kidney issues. And there's a potential risk for increase of thyroid cancer with long-term use of these medications. And again, we're talking about using this as a long-term medication. We are seeing some deaths that have been reported from severe pancreatitis. And So I think it's super important to know that, again, let's weigh the risk benefit ratio and let's make sure that we're doing this responsibly. These aren't medicines that we need to take for small amounts of weight loss. These are not reasons to not take the medicine either. I don't want to scare you with these side effects because every medicine comes with side effects. But I also want to note that people that decreased their calorie intake in the studies had less of these symptoms. So when people were monitored in the studies, we found what most of the studies that I have been looking at here, and I've looked at them pretty extensively to prepare for the podcast as well, it seemed like it was about a 5 to 7% had some of these side effects. And not even, and a smaller amount with the serious side effects. But in real life, we're seeing people having about 65% are actually stopping the medication because of side effects. That would indicate that we didn't make a change in our lifestyle potentially. And that would be really good to study that. If we don't change the intake, are the side effects higher? And that would be the hypothesis, since you've got a slowed gastric emptying, and that's going to make you not feel very good. You're going to start throwing up. So again, if you don't change how you're eating and your lifestyle factors, you could potentially, the thought is, have more of these side effects. So it's a really big conversation, and we just don't want to lose sight of the big picture. And again, there are exceptions for people to not take this medication if they have a risk of thyroid cancer, but there are also people that legitimately could benefit from this medication that are obese. They are tired of not being able to succeed. They've tried, they've worked at it, they're committed to it. Maybe they have diabetes, maybe they have other hormone imbalances, and they just can't lose weight. And I think this could be a kickstart for them. And it's something that, again, needs to be combined if it's done. And so I just think that's a very important part of as we look at Ozempic. So the true weight management is really a holistic endeavor. And so I just want us to look at the big picture of weight management and the challenges of it. I've often said that weight or being overweight is an ism. And people can talk about accepting people's identity, put all the things on the table, religion, put it all together. But when we're starting to talk about body image, someone's body weight, people can be very cruel. And I've seen this with social influencers that are just beautiful people. And you'll see people say, well, you certainly don't have the ideal body. And so many times our message is based on the person delivering its body. Body image is really critiqued, especially when you get into the online space. And I think that's a very important part to look at, is that people can feel bullied and can feel so frustrated that they will do the most unhealthy thing to lose weight, no matter what the health impact. They don't really care. I hear it all the time. It's like, I don't really care about the long term. I just need to lose weight right now. That's it. That's all that I care about. So I think it's super important that we understand the desperate feeling of people that are overweight, how they're treated differently, the assumption that they don't try, the assumption that they're lazier, the assumption that they're extremely sedentary, but not looking at the why, not looking at the individual. So that's something that my heart kind of goes out to. And I've worked with a lot of these people, and I see a lot of the challenges and so many things that put them right where they are and some of why they're not able to lose weight. I also think a bigger discussion on hormones is very much weighs into this. But at the Take 10 program, I talk a lot about that, because this was a 10-day full immersive residential program that I ran with my late spouse, Dr. James Peters. And we demonstrated the profound impact on health improvement, the biomarkers. We measured VO2 max, we measured body composition, and we made lifestyle changes. We fed them 30 meals. They were there for 10 days, and we saw profound improvement. Nutrition education, physical activity, mindset. Oh, we had psychologists that worked with people. And the whole idea was, how can we help kickstart someone? The same concept of Ozempic in a 10-day program. And my philosophy was, if I can show someone how their body can work, because they're so tired, they're so used to failing, or that didn't work for me. That's what I would hear all the time. Like, yeah, well, they tried it, but that's not going to work for me. And I was able to show people, let's see how this works on your body. And the success was profound. And as I look at the outcomes of Ozempic, and I see how people are changing and what their results are, we were getting those exact type of results with diet and lifestyle alone. So I want to make sure in this podcast that you are very clear that if we're able to eat less, change, start eating healthy, start moving more, sleeping better, that getting that mindset adjustment, accepting body image, just getting that happy factor, starting to be able to get our body to move more, that resistance training, looking at, nutrition, fitness, sleep, mental health, the whole person, we will see our lives turn around. We will be living our most healthy, vibrant life. It turns on our body's natural health defense. We will live more healthy years. But there are people that hit the wall and these things are tougher for them. So that's what I just want to say is that even if you're on Ozempic or you want to try a medication for that extra support, we still need to do, and it is work, we still need to make these changes. And in time, slowly, we make the changes in how we eat. And that's what I love doing as a doctor of clinical nutrition. You never want to go back when you're starting to see how good and how great your body feels. That's the most exciting thing. So I think it's super important that when we think about a patient's health, that we don't just think about their weight. Weight's not the sole determinant of one's health, but we think about their body composition. We're how do we improve someone's lifestyle? We're not just lowering their weight, but we're helping them build muscle. Resistance training. We talked last week about protein intake and the amino acids and these branch chain amino acids combined with resistance training and the power of building muscle. But you have to have enough calories. Improving glycogen storage. That's how we're going to do our cardio training. So if we're stripping our glycogen storage and we're losing weight too quickly with Ozempic or any restrictive calorie diet, we're not going to build muscle. Our glycogen storage we're going to hit the wall when we do cardio. We won't be able to exercise as much. So we want to improve quality life. We want to decrease our risk of cancer and other diseases. And ultimately, the goal is to prolong and have more healthy years. So I think that's really important for us to focus on as healthcare professionals, as physicians that are prescribing these medications. And I think it's really important. I saw some of the physicians that were talking about it on YouTube, and it was, we don't really need a registered dietitian, or we don't really agree with where the nutritionist would align with treatment for weight loss. And I'm thinking, that's really a sad thing, because if we were to say that, my doctorate's in clinical nutrition so that I could win the confidence to show that my doctorate, this is my specialty. And I talk about this a lot, that I don't try to do open heart surgery, but I've spent my entire career in clinical nutrition and lifestyle medicine, and how the food is medicine. And physicians aren't trained in those things. These are things that they're learning outside of it, whether they have obesity medicine, no matter how they're board certified, internal medicine, we can see what they've learned. We can see their classes. And I think it's important for us to work together, and they can prescribe the medication. They can say all of the things that they need to say about encouraging, dosing, titrating, making sure the person is appropriate. They understand the risks, the risk benefit ratio. They make a decision to start. They manage the side effects. They make sure that they're not losing too much weight, but they're referring them to clinical nutrition experts, physical therapy, whatever they need to start moving more. And again, this is what Dr. Cheryl Wellness is all about, because my membership is a way for us to be able to provide those services at a lower cost. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit, is the insurance challenge of using nutrition. But I just think it's really important for any type of weight loss that we combine, health professionals work together, and we trust each other, and we work together with people that are like-minded and that can support success in weight loss. I want to talk a little bit about some of the natural alternatives and long-term strategies. So if you're choosing to take Ozempic, or if you're not, this will apply. So everybody needs to be doing these steps. Prior to this, I just wanted to talk about Ozempic. It's available. It's something that I'm not afraid of if it's used for the right people appropriately and prescribed by providers that understand it, know it, and are referring you to a full nutrition exercise plan as well. But these are the natural alternatives. And this is for someone that you could be doing this with or without Ozempic. So let's call this section the natural Ozempic. So if you're looking for an alternative to the medication, if you're looking to how do you combine these with the medication and you're trying Ozempic, there's many natural ways to achieve the feeling of fullness. The typical thing we say is a diet that's rich in protein, soluble fiber like psyllium husks, and healthy plant or healthy fats can enhance the GLP-1. It's a natural hormone involved in appetite regulation that we're talking about. The medication Ozempic is an agonist of and drives this, and blood sugar control. So protein, soluble fiber, like what's in psyllium husks, like what's in an apple, like what's in barley and oats, what's in avocado, and these healthy fats, like the omega-3 fatty acids. As we look at monounsaturated fats, they will enhance this GLP-1. It helps us regulate appetite and improve blood sugar control. So these are some of the natural strategies, and you couple this with regular exercise and mental health support, mindset shifts, if that's what we need to help us start to make and succeed in small lifestyle changes. This is how we can have sustainable health benefits and not need the prescription medication or combine them with the medication. So what the experts are saying about natural Ozempic, I always like to say, what are some of the experts saying of it? And again, it really hits big. And what I was hearing consistently was combining Ozempic with a protein-rich diet and a low-carb diet. I heard this in a lot of I think every single physician that was talking about it and researcher that talked about Ozempic, they seem to align that protein helps us lose weight. It's super popular for weight loss. But I felt like that I wanted to describe a little bit. We did in the last podcast, but we need to redefine what a protein-rich diet is, and we will do that. But also combining that with resistance training 4 to 5 days a week, plus the high protein, low carbs. What does that mean? When I connect high protein, low carb, we remember that fiber is a carbohydrate. So hold that thought, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But last week we talked about what did Dr. Peter Attia and this Dr. Van Loon say about how much protein we needed combined with ongoing resistance training to gain muscle. We talked about branched chain amino acids last week, but they recommended 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So again, we need to define what is high protein. So adequate protein, if somebody's doing resistance training, to these experts is 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. I will remind you that the World Health Organization, the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And then it goes up maybe to 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, again, based on how active we are, the muscle turnover, our health status. Again, we talk about if it's a burn patient, we have to use much higher amounts of protein. But ultimately, for a healthy person that's exercising with a lot of muscle turnover and we want to build muscle, the 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight is where Dr. Peter Attia, who is big with fitness and longevity, I'd consider him a real expert of muscle building, and that's where he lands. I like to talk about Dr. Rachel Paul. She's a PhD behavioral psychologist and a registered dietitian, and she does the Best Body program. It's an online program for weight loss. And her general recommendation is 100 grams of protein. This is per day with 20 grams of fiber. That's her how to stay full from what you eat protocol. Abby Sharp is an online media dietitian. She's super fun to follow. I follow her on Instagram. She has YouTube videos, and she's labeled Hunger Crushing Combo. I love it. I'm always talking about how do we crush hunger. And she has actually termed that Hunger Crushing Combo as Abby Sharp's term. And she starts out that food is divisive. And I've always said that. I loved it. I saw one of her YouTube shorts, and it was about, food's more divisive than politics and religion. And it's like, I felt like she was taking my script of what I say all the time for the last 20 years is that because we eat, we are all experts. But Abby Sharp in her Hunger Crushing Combo it's a combination of, she doesn't state the grams, but it's a protein, fiber, healthy fat. So again, these are what some of the experts that are out there in the nutrition field, and they coming in with this protein, fiber, healthy fat as an approach to naturally crushing hunger. So we can call this nature's Ozempic, potentially, just to make it simple. But the goal is to create meals that make us feel full, emotionally satisfied, and that's what both of these dietitians talk about. But ultimately, Abby Sharp's big. She says protein, it's the king of satiety. She references many studies here. Protein helps us feel full longer. It reduces the hunger hormone ghrelin, and it boosts satiety hormone peptide YY. Thought that was interesting. I've looked at some of the current studies on that. I think it's a little bit less conclusive, but it did help with, again, maintaining muscle mass, which I think is where I hang my hat for the most important role for making sure we get enough protein with a calorie restricted diet. But again, when we talk about what is high protein, we talk so much about the percent of the diet. And so what I looked for is, what does a physician saying high protein, what do they mean? And so as I looked at some of the studies with Ozempic, they looked at combining normal protein, low protein, and what they called high protein. And ultimately, they called 25% of your daily calories a high protein diet. But where I want to say is the restriction of calories in some of these studies was 950 calories. So if you drop your calories, your percent of protein needs to go up, because we need so many grams of protein a day, regardless of how many calories we have, if we don't want to lose muscle. So I think that's what I talked about in last week's podcast. I think that's super important. Abby Sharp's talking about it here. Peter Attia is talking about it, and Dr. Rachel Paul. So I think it's important, and I am going to second that it's important for us to look at high protein is based on grams of body weight, and changing our total calories will change that percent. So I look at high protein is if you start getting up above, when you're even at 1.6 grams per kilogram, I would call that a higher protein diet. When you get up to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, I think that's very high. And I think it's actually too high unless someone's an elite athlete with bodybuilding. So ultimately, as we look at protein for satiety, there's a lot of confliction in the research on that. Anytime we go on a calorie restricted diet, we're going to see after, that's why I believe we get the results that we do with Ozempic. When they go off Ozempic, our ghrelin that tells us the drive to eat and hunger just kicks up higher, because our body just really craves to stay at its body weight wherever you started. And that's what we can slowly, it's like a set point on our body, and our body wants to hold it. It's very difficult. So that's why when we go off diets, 98% of the people will go back to the original weight or maybe even gain more. Those are my concerns about these restrictive yo-yo dieting. And again, we weigh more, but our body composition is even less muscle than when we started. Most of the time, if we didn't do these things, if we didn't eat enough protein, if we didn't eat healthy, and if we didn't exercise, well, we were dropping body weight. So the ghrelin will kick in and drive us because it wants to rebuild the muscle that was lost. It's trying to preserve your body, and it's trying to build healthy bone. So that's the reason the body, anytime you've been on a restrictive diet, even for 6 months or a year, and you'll begin to find it harder and harder to maintain it because ghrelin starts to become your enemy. So this is where, if Ozempic had a benefit for long term, it could help turn that off so that we could stay successful longer. That's what we'll get to watch research and see if that could help in weight maintenance for a lifetime. And if that's the case with the smallest dose without side effects, it could be great. But we also don't know. We haven't studied it that long to know other side effects or other problems with it. The other is fiber. And Abby Sharp, again, her combination is protein. So is Rachel Paul, protein and fiber, and the healthy plant fats. But fiber does help slow the pace of digestion and nutrition absorption. And it sort of slows and releases our meals. So when we have a lot of soluble fiber, it's powerful. Like the apple a day concept is really powerful, because we can see that apples are really high in pectins, soluble fiber. As we see psyllium fibers, we see how fiber plays a role, and the same thing we're trying to do with Ozempic. So I would just say that soluble fiber for me would be nature's number one Ozempic response, because it's going to have that part that makes us feel full by filling the stomach mechanically. It's going to drop the ghrelin levels, and it's going to decrease our hunger and help us stay full longer between meals. At the same time, it's going to help us regulate blood sugar, and it's going to drop. It's the natural way to drop cholesterol. So that's a win-win, whether you're taking Ozempic and whether you're not. Soluble fiber is your friend. Healthy plant fats, Again, it slows down the food leaving the gut, and it provides a long-lasting satiety to meals. So monounsaturated fats, they help lower cholesterol, and also these omega-3 fatty acids that are very anti-inflammatory are powerful. So my final thoughts on Ozempic versus lifestyle and nutrition. Again, I talk about my Take 10 program because this is where thousands of patients went through and we tested it. We started this in 2009, 2010. And so a lot of this was happening concurrently. When I finished my doctorate, I went right in and put this program together. And we really looked at how we could show somebody firsthand coming, leaving home, leaving their environment. Yes, it was drastic, but this was the kickstart that people would need. And it wasn't just about weight loss. It was just, how can you feel great? And of course, a lot of pressure on us because we hoped that through the detox period, the first 3 days could be very tough. But the goal was by 10 days, you saw what it felt like and you feel better and you can see some results and you've gained muscle and lost weight. And what we found was cholesterol improved, the biomarkers for cardiovascular risk decreased. 70% of the people that had diabetes medication were off of them. Insulin resistance improved by 30%, blood sugars by 35%. It was a dramatic change in 10 days, and we did not use Ozempic. We did not use any medication. But again, a lot of hand-holding support, and we were feeding everyone. But what it does is it tells us that it's possible. It tells us on some of the most resistant people, we had great success when we could control the environment. So it proved that point to the person as well, because we can talk about research all day long, but you're individually, how does that work for me? I'm not worried. I hear your study, so that might give me the confidence. But at the end of the day, it's the research of one. And that's, how do I feel? What are my side effects? Do I feel better? Do I look better? And then the secondary is, oh yeah, I'm going to live more healthy years. That is definitely the secondary outcome that they're looking for. And again, I talked about this in last week's podcast, but if people gained muscle, even for women, 0.7 to 1 pound, men consistently 1 pound in a week, and losing 1 to 1.5 pounds of body fat. We were measuring this. We had our human performance lab. So this was under the best measures and all done, state-of-the-art type measuring, impedance testing, body composition, VO2 max. We had a metabolic cart. We were looking at all of the things. VO2 max improved in just 10 days. We saw hemoglobin A1C drop significantly, and that's a 3-month marker of blood sugar. So very exciting changes. People lost body weight as they gained muscle. But if somebody was the same weight when they came, and they weren't even there to lose weight, let's just say, but they gained 1 pound of muscle and lost 1 pound of fat, same weight when they left, goal wasn't weight loss, they didn't like it. Everybody just wants to lose weight. They want to lose weight if they're already at their ideal body weight, especially women. So what we found was the marker was waist circumference. And I would just say that to you, if you're looking at risk and what are my highest risk without measuring a biomarker, you don't have bioimpedance testing, you don't have the VO2 max. Ultimately is, as we start to look at, is what I'm doing working? We can start looking at, again, I have the wellness score and I show the foods that we can eat, the activities that we do, and upping the score is really the Take 10 program. I created that to be a great tool. It's part of Dr. Cheryl Wellness now. It's part of our wellness membership, but it's also free at drcherylwellness.com if you want to check your wellness score. But the next thing you can look at is, what's your score on a scale of 0 to 20? And the lower it is, the higher your risk, the higher the risk factors. It correlates. The higher the number correlates to the lowest amount of cardiovascular metabolic risk factors. Then we look at waist circumference. A waist circumference 40 and above. I've always said if I was an insurance company, I would literally pay for insurance coverage for anybody that had a waist circumference of 40 or above, because those are the people that consistently, you can see the correlation between waist circumference and cardiovascular metabolic health issues. So when we look at how successful something is, we want to build muscle and decrease specifically that visceral abdominal fat. That's when we know we're really making the changes that we need to do. What I also found, and I just have to say this, is insurance reimbursement. The reason I did Take 10, I did it at a hospital setting, was I wanted people to see that lifestyle medicine, diet, and lifestyle changes worked in a controlled setting. And again, medical nutrition therapy. but it's not covered by insurance. And I think this is something that's really, again, another podcast, but I want to highlight it here that all of this research on Ozempic is to get an FDA approved medication like the Wegovy so that insurance will pay for this medication. And now we're seeing this new change for down to the age of 12 years of age and up for people that have obesity, people that are overweight based on these BMI criteria. But ultimately, we're trying to get Medicare Part D to cover it. And again, this will be a huge impact on our healthcare spending if that is approved. So as you know, we have other people coming out and lobbyists that are saying, hey, this is the drug companies getting rich. We're pushing this medicine. We see the stock for it just booming. But what I want to say is that medical nutrition therapy, if you have diabetes, you get about 10 hours of diabetes education in a lifetime. So when we're talking about Ozempic needs nutrition support long term, that's not in the coverage. The coverage is just paying for the medication. That would be my appeal, is that so many lobbyists are pushing for Ozempic to be covered once it's FDA approved. Wegovy approving these medications is we need to be pushing the same way, because once they start taking all those medications, these people need to be referred for medical nutrition therapy. Absolutely. And that's something that I'm near and dear to me, because what I found even in Take 10 is we're in a hospital setting, we're getting paid for heads and beds. I couldn't run a maintenance component to Take 10 other than coming back to the program, but something that was out there that I could do to reach you in your home. That's something that is hard to get coverage for. So most people are paying cash when they would come to Take 10. Medical insurance would cover some of the medical visit, but education is typically not covered. And a lot of times people would come to the program with diabetes and they'd already had their education. So we didn't get reimbursement. So medical reimbursement is huge. And I think that as all these people are running to Ozempic and it's supposed to be combined, that needs to be also covered in the care. And if it's not, I just want you to know that is the whole reason that Dr. Cheryl Wellness is here. I took the Take 10 program and I rolled it out into an online wellness platform available to your home, your table, your family. That's what I'm doing with this podcast that's free. But ultimately, I want you to know if you're ready to make those changes, whether you're on Ozempic or not, my wellness membership is something that you'll want to check out at Dr. Cheryl Wellness, because it will give you that ongoing support for $37 a month. And it's available to anybody everywhere. And it's a proven model. So I just want to say that there is hope. In the meantime, I hope that we do get Medicare to cover some of these things, but we do have this program and I want to make sure that people are aware of it. So for me, the key is, how do we help people live a healthy, vibrant life? Obesity comes with a stigma. If you've never been overweight or obese, you may not really understand the stigma that destroys people's quality of life, not to mention their metabolic health and shortening their longevity. But the stigma that comes with it leads people to just want to lose weight without as much concern for the health impact. That's a really sad story, because I hear it all the time. If you can get this weight off, I'll do anything. They're not asking me, how can I do it healthy? And that's what's going to drive a craze like Ozempic. Those are some of the concerns and fears that I have for this medication, because there's a group of people out there desperate to lose weight at any cost. And I don't mean just financial cost. I mean at any cost to their health. They want to look beautiful in the eyes of the world. And I think that's the thing we have to pay attention to. Number one, if you're not overweight, don't put a stigma to someone that is. We don't know their story. And if you do struggle with it, there is hope. And this medication may be the perfect answer for you, but don't forget to combine it so that you get it right. You use it as a kickstart, like we did with Take 10, so that you could start to see how it feels. You can start to feel like moving more. You start to feel better. Inflammation drops. And now you can start moving, and now you can start eating less, and you can start eating the healthier foods, less processed foods, and you start to see your body heal, and you never want to go back. And that's what we did with Take 10. That's what we do with our Dr. Cheryl Wellness membership. And that's what we need to do, whether we're on or off an obesity medication or a diabetes medication. We never want to just rely on that medication. It's just that extra support, even if we're talking about obesity at 100 pounds overweight. So one of the main reasons that people attended the Take 10 program, I think fits in here really well, is number one, they had a new diagnosis or pain point. They tend to wait. We don't come in for prevention as much. They've got a new pain point and they've been prescribed a medicine and they want to stop taking it. They don't want to rely on a medicine to fix the problem. So I'll find this interesting with Ozempic. I'm not seeing people challenged by that, but they don't want to take a diabetes medicine. But they probably would take something to lose weight if they thought that worked for some celebrity. That might change that. But medications like statins and cholesterol-lowering medications, hypertensive medications, they ask me, how do I get off these meds? What can I do? And those are a lot of the people that came to me specifically. That's just my demographic that would come, take 10 days out of life. Remember, they were motivated and they had out-of-pocket spending that they could do to make this difference. And it worked. But that isn't possible for everybody to have the money, have the time to attend a program that's in California from wherever you live in the world. And that's why my goal is to bring, again, the program to you. But the goal of the program was to show people how their body would respond to a change in how they ate, their lifestyle habits, and it would kickstart that into a long-term success. And we had really great long-term outcomes from the program. So when people lose weight from any kind of diet, we're going to see an improvement in the cardiometabolic risk factors, especially initially. So we're going to see that lipid profile improves. But what's really important is that we want to lose weight healthy. And that's really the message for this podcast. Whether it's Ozempic, whether you want to do it on diet and lifestyle alone, whether you're combining it, let's slowly titrate and optimize and use correctly any kind of medication that we're using. And let's make sure we're getting that support and our goal is now we know we need to eat less or change how we eat. And let's work with that medication. Or let's say, I'm going to try it on my own and see what I can do. And I'm going to take the wellness score and I'm going to start looking at how I can eat and how I build meals that crush hunger. And I'm going to eat these formulas of food that have this natural Ozempic effect. And I'm going to go for it. But again, the goal is to build muscle, lose body fat, not dehydrate ourselves, make sure that we're doing this as healthy as we can. We want to build glycogen storage so we can do more cardio. We want to build muscle, and that's resistance training. And we want to do this while we lose weight. That's the formula. And that's what I was able to find in Take 10. And that's what I'm bringing to the wellness table is that fine formula. And it's here for you if you want to check it out. But none of these pieces can be missing. So if you're going to a health professional and you're losing too much weight, you're going to start to lose muscle mass. I don't recommend that. I think it's super important that every single one of the pieces are included in whatever you're doing if your goal is to lose weight. So I think that's one of my key points here. And I think that what we all want to look at is, are we striving to be as healthy as we can be? Are we trying to not just look at the scale, but also look at how can I build body muscle, and understanding that Medicare coverage, whether it's covering it or not, you're going to need long-term support in nutrition and diet therapy, whether they cover Ozempic, whether they decide not to cover it. It's a very expensive medication at this time, but I think it's super important to know that it must be combined with a healthy diet. So long-term support is the key, no matter how we're trying to get ourselves healthy. Another thing we talked about at the top of the show, and I want to talk about it a little bit, is the problem with protein. When we say high protein and low carb, we're hearing that a lot. I heard it a lot as I was preparing for the podcast. It equates to people as I need to eat more meat. And what's going to happen with low carb is you're going to get less fiber. So those start to show other problems with our immune function, more problems with cancer, as we talk about the tidal wave of cancer and GI cancers and colon cancers. That's going to set us up for a problem with that. But we're also trying to build muscle and have satiety. Again, there's this fine dance between all of these things, and it depends on the individual. But it's so important that your physician, your health professionals, your coaches are recommending weight loss with muscle building. And if they're talking about high protein, low carb, then it's really important for us to know that fiber is a carbohydrate. So when we're looking at total carbohydrates and we're looking at what's the percent of carbohydrates, remember that your fiber grams have no calories. They keep us full. We just identified protein, soluble fiber, and healthy plant fats like the omega-3 fatty acids, and also that are anti-inflammatory. And the monounsaturated fats are having natural Ozempic effect. So as we're looking at a diet let's don't forget how important fiber is. Let's don't forget the phytonutrients that are in plant foods, that are unprocessed foods, that are carbohydrate foods. So I think that's very important for us to get it very clear on what we need. And I think it's also important to know that one of the things a fiber supplement has been called the psyllium husks, which is like Metamucil. It's been called the poor man's Ozempic. So I just thought that was really interesting because it's an affordable alternative to semaglutide medication, Ozempic. And I think that as we're looking at trying to lose weight, let's look at what are all the natural things that we can do. So don't think about carbohydrates as bad. Think about processed carbohydrates. Processed foods are where the problem is. So I think it's super important for us to think that high protein diets do help in crushing hunger. So does fiber. Fiber is a carbohydrate. So let's just put that all together as we're making decisions as to how we want to eat healthy. So I think our takeaways here are we need to eat more fiber, specifically soluble fiber, lean proteins, healthy plant fat, and fruits and vegetables that increase this GLP-1 naturally. And they really help with weight loss because it makes us feel full. I just think it's super important that we remember that, again, that percentage of protein, if we're starting to have lower amount of calories, then we're going to end up having a higher percent of protein. But that doesn't particularly mean that we're on some high protein diet. I think it's a really nice mix. And so again, that combination of say 20 grams of protein at a meal, 30 grams of protein at a meal is going to help, is going to make a big difference. And these healthy plant fats, I'm finding 15, 20 grams at least of a healthy plant fat, having at least 2 cups of fruits and vegetables, specifically these soluble fiber rich fruits and vegetables and berries that have all the phytonutrients and they're loaded with fiber. And we need some whole grains like quinoa is a winner. It's loaded in fiber and it's high in protein. So these are some of the things that as we look at how do we put together the natural GLP-1 effect or the natural Ozempic effect, it's going to be this combination. One of the things I want to highlight at this point in the podcast is why is the weight regain with Ozempic and some of the other GLP-1 obesity medications and diabetes medicines. I just think we have to highlight it. I think it makes sense to a lot of people, but the problem is when we go off of any calorie restrictive diet like Ozempic, this GLP-1 obesity medication, that we're seeing that we're going to regain the weight. One of the reasons is that any type of restrictive diet, even doing Ozempic or any of these other medications, ghrelin just sort of supercharges after we go off of the diet, or even if we're still on the diet, if we've lost too much weight, and it's like survival of the body. And so we've talked a little bit about that, but ghrelin says eat more food. It drives us to eat. It will increase our appetite. And the goal is to regain muscle, healthy bone. So I think that's why it's so important to do this slow and steady, and that we don't get our knee-jerk reaction from our body with this supercharge of ghrelin that can get out of control from going too extreme. It's kind of like the pendulum effect. I think that has a lot to do with this weight regain. The body, natural hunger hormones kind of hit a supercharge and they want to increase the appetite. That's going to push for our body again to rebuild, refuel the glycogen, rehydrate, and get healthy again. So I think that's, again, more reason to do it slow and steady, take the small steps, and being aware that there are foods that can control ghrelin, like eating soluble fiber. The mechanical filling of the stomach actually says we're full. And leptin is the satiety, feeling full hormone. So all of these hormones should be working really well together if we're eating a healthy diet and we're exercising properly. And for some people, I saw it talked about in preparing for the podcast that they may have a GLP-1 deficiency. I think that would be wonderful to learn more about, that people that are really resistant and they're doing all of the things. I've seen people like this. I'm going to say of my patients over the years, thousands of patients, I can specifically think of maybe 10 or 15 people that specifically met this criteria, that I watched them doing every single thing that I was saying. It wasn't like they'd be right with me. I'm observing the whole thing. And I just saw the way their body hung on to body weight. And so I definitely see that there's more to it, but it's the smaller population. I don't think that applies to everyone. And I think those would be people that would be appropriate for this GLP-1 medication. There's definitely people that I have in mind that I would say that might have helped in addition to everything else that we were doing. But again, let's talk about the foods that can naturally increase GLP-1 and the kind of that natural Ozempic effect to make you feel full is healthy dietary fats, the MUFA, the monounsaturated fats, and the omega-3 fats. And this is like the olives, olive oil, avocado. These are healthy monounsaturated fats. And the omega-3 fats, again, this is some of the fish, the salmon that have omega-3 fatty acids. Flaxseed is a big one. Chia seed, soy has omega-3 fatty acids. Walnuts do as well. So these are some of the fats that are healthier for your heart and help you drop waistline and also will naturally increase this GLP-1 level. Again, a natural Ozempic effect. That's a great one. So I think that's super important for us to think about choosing olives or avocado oil instead of butter, possibly. If you eat fish, just think about bringing these things more into your dietary habits. Using fish oil supplements to promote the ghrelin's anti-inflammatory effect, and the omega-3 fatty acid increases ghrelin levels. So this may have something to do with the anti-inflammatory effect of omega-3s because the omega-3s do increase the ghrelin level. That might be the mechanism of action for that. And as we learn more and more about all of these, and then lean protein. So a low-fat protein source can increase the GLP-1 and help us build and maintain muscle mass while we're losing weight. I've seen it in Take 10. I know it can happen. If it's not happening, something's going wrong and we need to make an adjustment because ultimately, if you're losing muscle mass, we're going in the wrong direction, regardless of the scale. And lower fat sources of protein can increase GLP-1 and also maintain muscle mass. So I think it's important, protein-mediated GLP-1 release, that protein is considered the most satiating, feeling full of all the macronutrients. Carbohydrate, protein, fat. Protein is the one that gives us the most satiety. It's associated with weight loss. And again, it's associated with building muscle. So I think that's a really great combination and why you're going to keep hearing have high protein. I just wanted to identify what high protein actually means. And again, we can get protein from animal sources, cottage cheese, lean beef, eggs, turkey, chicken, fish. And if we're looking at building muscle, all of these foods work. But when we start looking at all the other benefits of health benefits, like how do we lower our risk of cancer? We start looking at, we've got to look a little bit beyond. How do we lower cholesterol the most without being extremely restrictive? We can change the type of protein that we eat. So getting enough protein is important, but the right source of protein is really important. So I recommend having at least 1 to 2 plant-based proteins at each meal. Combine that with any other combination of animal proteins. And again, trying to stay away from any of the carcinogenic, like the deli meats, the processed meats, any of these ultra processed meats can be a problem, just like the ultra processed carbohydrates. And so tofu, soybeans, edamame, these are all great sources of protein. But a high protein diet will naturally help. It just makes you feel satisfied and it makes you feel full longer. So it's generally thought that it's about 30% of your calories that's high protein. If you're eating about 2,000 calories, that'd mean you'd have about 150 grams of protein a day. That's a lot of protein. And so I think that typically as we're looking at about 100-gram max, again, it depends on how many calories you're eating, but most people that are on a calorie restricted diet are probably eating under 2,000 calories a day, depending upon how active they are. Rachel Paul comes in at 100 grams of protein a day, but overall in the research, the technical high protein was 25% of the daily calories. And again, I base it on how many grams of protein that you need. And so let's look at like 3 eggs are 18 grams of protein, 2 ounces of cooked turkey, 14 grams of protein, Greek yogurt, 17 grams of protein. The amount of protein, like as we're looking in soybeans and things like that, these have very good protein sources. And it's easy for us to get our protein needs, but we do have to be very aware that as we restrict calories, that we get enough protein. I think that's really the key. And it also, we can see, helps us build muscle, and it helps us feel full. Now, soluble fiber is the other natural Ozempic. And again, soluble fiber is the biggie here. And it's been called the poor man's Ozempic. I thought that was kind of interesting, but it's a GLP. It increases GLP naturally. And it's found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains like barley and oatmeal, legumes, beans, lentils, flaxseed, chia seed. So these are some of the things. They have a gel-like substance. Apples are full of soluble fiber. So I think as we look at pectin fruits, we look at the whole grains. That's why it's really important for us to make sure that we're getting enough fiber. So when people are talking about a low carbohydrate diet, I'm always worried about being afraid of all carbohydrates. Refined sugars, refined grains are where the bad rap gets when it comes to carbohydrate. But these whole vegetables, these fruits that are soluble fiber packed, they're critical for a healthy diet. The soluble fiber binds and absorbs to the blood sugar and it slowly releases it. The same effect of Ozempic, the same effect as these GLP-1s. It's going to slow and release the food from the stomach. At the same time, that soluble fiber is going to bind to cholesterol and exit it from the body. It's the only exit plan. So we've got a way of managing blood sugar and decreasing cholesterol. These are those cardiovascular biomarkers for risk by just increasing soluble fibers. So when I hear high protein, low carbohydrate, I would say it different. We need high fiber, and fiber has 0 calories. It's a carbohydrate that's calorie free. And those foods come with some carbohydrate. But if you get 20 grams of carbohydrate and 10 of it is fiber, then you're only getting 10 grams of carbohydrate. So these are the difference of processed and unprocessed carbohydrates. I'm not concerned about whole plant food sources of carbohydrate. The typical daily fiber intake is about 25 grams a day. The standard American diet struggles to hit 15 grams a day. We're in a fiber deficient society. I think it's one of the drivers of the problems that we have in lifestyle related diseases. And so my recommendation is 25 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. So again, I always come back to how many calories you're eating, what's your body weight. It's not just a percentage. So if you combine, if you're on a 1,500 calorie diet or you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, I'm recommending up to 50 grams of fiber a day. Then we're going to just start see weight improving. We start exercising with that. If we have, say, 80 grams of protein, if it's 100 grams of protein a day, whatever you need to do, depending upon what your 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram, I'm good with that. So if that takes you to 80 to 100 grams of protein in a day, it's awesome. But that doesn't push meat for me. I'm not pushing, those are refined. They don't have any fiber. So the animal proteins can help us build muscle. They give us the amino acids that we need, but they don't provide the fiber. So I think it's really important as we're increasing protein that we make sure we're also remembering how much fiber we need. And we're also considering that animal proteins do not have any fiber, but they do help us build muscle. So a combination is great, but making sure that you have some plant protein on your plate, because a plant protein like nuts and beans come with fiber. These are fiber-rich protein foods. Really ideal for what we're talking about here, giving you energy and everything. I wanted to just hit, before we close here, is the supplements that increase GLP-1. And the supplements that are maybe the least expensive way to increase GLP-1 levels naturally. If you want to add any supplements, keep in mind it's minimal amounts of research. Sometimes they've done more on animals or in a lab, small amounts, small studies in humans. But I still follow a lot of this research because this is how we find this is where we go with all of our research, and this is how it works. But psyllium is, again, Metamucil. It's the psyllium husk. It can boost GLP levels. So again, if you want to supplement with it, Dr. Jenkins, the researcher in Toronto, and he recommended for cardiovascular risk factor improvement, 60 grams of soy protein a day and psyllium fiber Metamucil supplement at every single meal. And the results were astounding. So again, we saw psyllium fiber. We've seen it improving cardiovascular risk factors when combined with soy protein. So again, this is where I've been hanging my hat, and where Take 10 has been is plant-based proteins. The dominant protein doesn't mean you don't have meat. You don't have the other things in there. And then a lot of soluble fiber. That's a winning combination for people to feel full. Biggest thing people would tell me with my program was, I can't eat everything that you have in front of me. I can't eat it. What am I going to do? And that was always the challenge. I ended up having to blend foods. People could not eat the volume, and I was feeding them, depending upon the person, but usually 1,600, 1,700 calories a day. they couldn't eat all the calories. So it really depends if we're getting more concentrated calories. It's so easy to eat. If you're putting butter in the diet, you don't even feel that. But when you start eating these soluble, rich foods, fruits and vegetables, plant proteins, your body fills up quickly, just the volume. Berberine is a plant-based compound that's been around for thousands of years, and it's been claimed to be nature's Ozempic, and it will help you lose weight. Again, some small studies showing people losing about 4 pounds of body weight, taking berberine about 500 milligrams a day. It's helped women with polycystic ovaries, the PCOS. It can help improve the body's response to insulin. So berberine with diabetes has been something that we've connected improving blood sugar and cholesterol numbers. I did a botanical medicine master's and learned quite a bit about some of these botanicals. So it was interesting to see how these supplements made the list for being nature's Ozempic. This yerba mate, this was interesting because I saw Dr. Huberman talk about it, this drink that I think he's invested in as well. And he did a social post on it. So I thought it was interesting when I saw it have a Ozempic-like, natural Ozempic-like effect. It's an ingredient found in tea. You can buy it in the extract form, and it's been found to reduce body fat in several ways. There's like 12-week studies showing body percent loss and waist circumference coming down. It decreased fat mass and the percentage of body fat, which is always the goal. So that could be a supplement to look at as we're going along. Curcumin, it's found in turmeric. It's a yellow spice. Again, we've talked about it. It's a superfood for fighting cancer and boosting the body's immune system. But now we're seeing curcumin also helping and improving blood sugar control and increasing GLP-1 release. So awesome study. 1,500 milligrams a day was the recommendation, reducing weight and blood sugar in people with type 2 diabetes. So I had to mention curcumin. Ginseng made the list. It's been used for energy, focus, immunity, and even hot flashes. So it's possible that it may also increase GLP-1. Small studies, rat studies. There's been a 4-week human study that it improved blood sugar control in people with diabetes. But again, we need longer studies. But ginseng, it's filled with these polyphenols and antioxidants. So enjoy it because it could have many, many benefits. So I just thought it was interesting to kind of hit some of these things. And again, the omega-3 fatty acid supplement, fish oil that have a ghrelin anti-inflammatory effect. And these omega-3s increased ghrelin levels is what we're seeing. And some of the plant sources are like flaxseed, chia seed, walnuts, soy. So if you want to lose weight, you don't necessarily have to take these GLP-1 Ozempic medications. There are natural ways to mimic that GLP-1 effect is what we're really wanting to point out here. The same effect that this popular weight loss drugs are doing. But either way we go, the aim is to get a balanced diet with enough protein, soluble fiber, these healthy fats, so that we can feel full, we can be eating less calories, and we start moving more, and we're feeling full, we start to move, we get our energy, and we do this resistance training. And again, the goal is gain muscle mass and to lose the body fat. And we want to see a slow, steady weight loss if that's the goal. Whether you're on the Ozempic or whether you're using nutrition and lifestyle medicine, the goal is slow and steady. No more than 2 pounds of weight loss in a week. And I think that's really important for us to look at because we're just losing water. We're just losing muscle mass. We're just losing the glycogen storage in our body. It can look good on a scale, but remember, it's how our whole body and health are going to function together. So as we wrap up today's discussion, remember that whether you opt for medication like Ozempic or pursue natural methods to lose weight, the key to lasting health is a balanced approach that integrates nutrition, lifestyle adjustments, and responsible medical guidance. And it's not just about the scale, it's about optimal health. So we need to put this all together of beating disease, regaining energy, and boosting our body's natural health defense because we want to live more healthy years. But we also want to feel like we are fit and we're feeling our muscle strength and we start to feel good and empowered to do more. We start to move more and we start to do more things and we start to feel good about ourselves and feel like we're doing something to be healthy. So this is why I created the Dr. Cheryl Wellness membership. It's long, ongoing support. I find that most people this isn't going to be covered under insurance. So if you're looking for lifetime support, you choose Ozempic or the natural approach, you still need to modify your diet and your lifestyle to optimize the effects. We have the wellness score. We've got the membership. It's got a masterclass. I'm here to coach you every step of the way. So if you're looking and you're ready, just remember, I just want you to know that for $37 a month in our membership, you can get the support that you need from myself as a doctor of clinical nutrition. I'm bringing 20 plus years of experience. I packaged together online the Take 10 program that had such powerful results with over 2,000 people. So I'm here to share that with you. And this podcast is all about bringing you the highlights of all of that work. So before we wrap up, I want to give you a quick teaser about last week's episode. If you missed it, it was all about the best diet and lifestyle habits to build muscle at every age. We focused on losing weight, and we can't forget about building muscle and being fit at every age. So muscle mass is easy to lose. We talked about this, and very tough to get back, and it impacts our bone health. So podcast number 24 is all about optimizing muscle building. And I just want to be sure you listen to that as we talk a little bit more about muscle and protein and the importance as we lose weight specifically, that we preserve muscle and that we build muscle at every age. You can check out, and no, this podcast is on any of your favorite podcast channels, but you can also watch this podcast on YouTube at Dr. Cheryl Wellness. I hope that you subscribe. It helps our show grow. Share this information with more people worldwide. Thanks for tuning into the Wellness Table. Stay happy, healthy, and remember, your health is a journey. It's not a race. And I'll see you at the table next time.